The audition is a chance to create art, not get it right. Every person we've seen so far, from my point of view, has created art here for us today. That's what we want the audition to be about. And so what I'd like to tie that to, before we go into the Q&A, I'd like to tie that to this idea of creating ideal demo scenes, of creating demo material for yourself, right? Which so many of us feel we don't have. Gosh, I don't have great showcases for myself. Or a lot of us are, I've done some independent film or some student films, or I've even paid someone to make me a demo scene, but none of it, a lot of times when I'm working with a young actor in whatever capacity I'm working with them, and I don't necessarily mean young in age, I just mean young in how much work they've done. Often actors will say, "Can I show you my demo reel?" And I'll say, "Yes." And one of the first questions I ask them, and oftentimes the demo reel is stuff they've created on their own, or they've paid someone to create, or they've done themselves. But what I often ask them is, do you feel this is the best showcase for yourself as an actor? Is this the best showcase for your talent, your skills? I don't like the word talent, but for your skills and your marketability. Is this the best showcase imaginable for you? And they're like, "Well, no. Not really close to that." Okay, then what are we doing? Because especially if it's DIY, they're going to assume this is your best stuff, because you could do anything. You made this little scene on the fly, on the cheap, you could do anything. So this must be your best, right? This is also why, one of the many reasons why it's so hard for actors to create their own content, okay, is because they get jammed up with getting it right. They get jammed up with getting it right instead of creating it for its own sake. Okay? And they think about what they're doing and how are they going to, and what's going to be, and there's all these like branding classes you can take and ask strangers to tell you what they think you're like, all this kind of crazy stuff. The way to discover what your brand is to create, is to keep creating stuff. Yes, to show what you can do, but also to become better at what you do. So the key to creating ideal demo scenes is similar to the key to auditioning, which is make it a process, make it an endless stream, make it, I'm not going anywhere. I'm like Tom Brady, practice, 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 game and practice, the same thing. There's no off season. I love football. I'm practicing, I'm playing, I'm creating. That's what we want to do. If you approach auditioning like that, and you can approach demo scenes like this, it's very, very helpful. And so going along with this idea of making things fun, and how do we begin to look at like demo scenes in a new way? Well, first of all, let me say this, that just like you saw with everybody here today, how mesmerizing was the work they were doing. It jumped off the screen. It was so real, and it wasn't fancy, and it wasn't a bunch of different shots. We couldn't even hear it well sometimes or see it well, but because of its honesty and spontaneity, it jumped off the screen. So I really encourage actors to, when they're creating demo material, to start with, let me create ideal scenes in the style of a self-tape audition. Like, let me just make it look as good as a self-tape audition looks technically, and done in the style of a self-tape audition, where it's just me and there's a reader and I'm letting it rip, but the scene has really got some thought put into it. I'm honing my craft. I've really thought about what I'm doing, and we can begin to create these scenes that are mesmerizing, and they just look like a great self-tape audition. Because even unconsciously, when a CD watches you do a demo scene, if it's on your reel, or that is your reel, or your agent, or you just send to an agent just this scene that you did, if it's done just like a regular self-tape, agents and CDs are watching these things all day. So immediately, even unconsciously, they're like, this is a professional. This looks professional. And everyone loves to Google like Aaron Paul, to audition actors and watch their audition that got them the part. It's so dazzling to watch. It's so active. And they're breaking all the rules, just like we've seen here today, of what you're supposed to do in an audition. And it's so simple, and it's just them in an office or them doing a self-tape, but you immediately are like, of course that got them the part. Of course they're a star. I get it, right? So I think we want to start with creating material in that way, looking at it as like, I just want to create an ideal showcase for myself that is like an ideal self-tape audition that I created. So an exercise that I'll give you guys to do that can be very helpful to start off this process. Pick one day. You can do it tomorrow, you can do it in 2 days, and small amount of time, like 20 minutes, 30 minutes. And you can do it every other day for a week, let's say. But to brainstorm on, what would an ideal audition scene be for you? Literally, like to imagine you had a dream almost. And in the dream, you got an audition and it's like, oh my God, this audition this is an amazing opportunity. I love this part. I love this show. If I got this guest star spot, this could be a break. This is right for me. This is up my alley. It's the perfect part for me. I love this part. So what I ask you to do is brainstorm on, pick one of your favorite TV shows, one of your favorite shows, and imagine a guest star character on that show that you would be right for, that you would just be a great fit. You would have fun to do. It would be so right for you. And imagine what the character is about, what the scene is about, what kind of character and what kind of scene. Just spend like every other day for a week making an imperfect choice, picking a show, picking a role, and brainstorming on that. I promise you, if you do that every other day for a week, you will be really surprised at what you get, because you're going to get your unconscious speaking to you about the kind of stuff you want to do and the kind of stuff that's right for you. And many of us might be surprised that you can actually begin to write that scene. And maybe you're not a writer, so maybe you can't really get a tight 1.5-minute demo scene, which is the best length for these demo scenes, right? No more than 1.5 minutes. But if you get a really good outline, if you get a really good sketch, then you got friends who can write. You can even pay someone to write it. There's a lot of stuff you can do, okay? But this, I find, is a really great way to start thinking about, what do I want to do? Do you know what I mean? What would be a great showcase for me? And I've worked like this. I'm also a writer, but I've worked like this over the years, and I've created a lot of great opportunity and gotten work from starting off with something like this. Another thing I suggest that people do is to pick 5 friends that you trust as a friend, and you trust their sense of the business, and to ask them what they think your most magnetic qualities are, what roles they would most like to see you do. Great thing to ask people. It's also great to ask yourself, what are my most magnetic qualities? What do I think are my most, hypnotic, magnetic qualities? And see if what people send you matches what you think. These are great starting points, okay? But again, what I encourage you to do is to have an audition process, to have the audition be an art, and to make the creation of material be an art. And these things can really relate, and they can feed each other.